Right, what is up everyone? How are you all? Apologies, I've been sort of on and off social media for the last few weeks just because of loads of things, positive and negative I suppose, but I am back in full swing. Today's video is a bit of a different one. So I entered a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition. It was my first purple belt competition and my third ever adult competition, and it was the Grappling Industries competition in London, which was a round robin style tournament with some slightly different rules to normal. So some submissions were allowed that aren't normally allowed at these competitions. So as you can see, I had a decent section for the gi and the no gi. So I was looking forward to it because it was money well spent, get a good few fights, and hopefully come home with some medals. So let's get straight into it and jump into the first fight. Right, so this first guy was definitely a lot heavier than I expected. I know we're in our weight section, but he just felt a lot heavier when we got into the fight. I had heard previously that he's a bit of a point player, so I needed to be aware of that and just to keep him moving so he couldn't get any points. Immediately I did a very shoddy guard pull, but then I managed to turn on my side and get my right leg over so I can get a bit of a half guard. You see this again in slow motion. I just turn on my side, get my right leg over and lock one of his legs up, which is a half guard position. It's quite hard because his legs were quite big, so I needed to really keep that as tight as I could, but he managed to get to a quarter guard, and then I knew at this point it'd be a very, very hard game to not let him mount me. Basically, that was what was going through my head. I knew it would be very difficult to not let him mount me since he was so close already, and being able to get your foot out of the quarter guard is not a difficult thing to do, basically. At the minute we were just fighting for position and I was just waiting for his leg to come out to maybe go for a sweep, but to be honest, right now I was just trying to catch some breath back and just be ready to sweep him off or do something to him that wouldn't allow him to get the points, essentially. So at this point I made a mistake and opened my legs and he got to a mount position. He also got 2 points for passing the guard, so he was now 6 points up, which was not ideal because my mount defense isn't superb, but it's definitely not awful. I'm just trying to base him here, really make a frame and push him down my body, because the further up he gets, the harder it is for me to defend him. He went for a really bad bread cutter choke there, but it had nothing to it, so I wasn't too fussed about it. You can see here he's really trying to work his way up my body, have a really high base, and I thought, well, he's definitely going to go for either a mounted triangle or an armbar. I could feel that already as he was trying to bring his right knee up, so that could be either for a mounted triangle or an armbar. Here I thought he was going to go for a triangle, and my defense against triangles is pretty decent considering I play them myself anyway. Then as he pulled his arm across my body, I realised he was going in for an armbar and immediately came up onto my knees. I did want to try and connect my arms, but that just didn't happen. But to be honest, I didn't really need to. I controlled his bottom leg so he wouldn't follow me as I stepped over his body. And here the armbar was just off completely, so I wasn't too fussed. Here we really ended up in a reverse mount position where I was controlling one of his feet, because if he was doing a big bridge, you can't do that with one foot. So that was my idea. And I thought, in training I've been trying to hit toe holds a lot, and I get them quite consistently and on higher grades, so I thought let's try it. Only problem was, you can't see in the video, but the grip I was getting wasn't very good. I just wasn't deep enough on the grip, so I couldn't get enough leverage on the ankle, essentially. Then I moved on to the other ankle and moved myself off of his body so I could get even more of like an elbow deep grip, which one of my coaches on the side there shouted to me. He rolled over and I still had a good grip on it, and at this point I thought he was going to tap. Like, I was going full force into his foot, but then his left leg was pushing into my forearm, if you can see there, taking loads of the pressure off of his foot. So one of my coaches shouted to me just to like let go, reassess the situation and just see what I can do now, because clearly that wasn't working. So I thought, well, let's just try the other foot, because maybe he's got a really strong foot or the other one's super weak. So again, I got a really, you can see it there, a super deep elbow grip on his left foot and just pushed as hard as I could, and I got the tap on that one. I was ecstatic, like stupidly happy for getting that submission. I never thought I'd even win my first fight, never mind by a toe hold, so I was super chuffed with that one. Right, this was fight 2, and I'd just actually spoken to Conrad before this fight, and we started early, which was quite funny. It was a good laugh, and then we got straight into the fight. I knew he was a guard puller, so I was ready to pass the legs straight away. Immediately put my right knee in between in what's called a headquarters position, and I was doing like a Toriando style passing, so keeping my body and my legs away from his body and having one arm or hand on his knee, I suppose. And then I also opted to control one of his legs with like an underhook of his ankles, like an ankle lock position. We ended up sitting in like an open half guard type situation, and we got reset by the ref. And we got started again. I got a decent collar grip and a knee grip on him, and I tried to base up my left leg, but he was lucky enough and got me in what's called a closed guard position. He was pulling really hard on my head. Not quite sure why. I think he was just trying to keep my base down. But he went for like a double arm in triangle, which didn't go well for him because I just underhooked his ankle, did like a donkey kick type pass, and I don't know what that spasm was. I just tried to do a really quick pass because he's a little bit older than me, so I know his pace would be a little bit slower than mine. So that's why I was doing that. I did want to do a big back step there, but I thought it left my back vulnerable. So instead I did a big front step. He ended up rolling over once I got to his side control. I took his back, went for one hook, and I got it, and then went for a body triangle because I couldn't get the other hook. At the top you can see I got a very good collar grip on him, and my coach basically just shouted, push his head. So pulled the collar grip, pushed his head, and he tapped to it. So I won my second fight via very sloppy collar choke. Right, so at this point, obviously I was on a roll, my ego was as high as it has ever been, and I was just super confident, basically. I wasn't complacent, but I was just confident in my ability to win the section. But we're going to move on to the next fight. So this guy I knew was a leg locker, and I'm relatively new to leg locks, especially when it comes to defending them. Like, my attacks on leg locks have only just become decent, so my defense is still yet to get there, but you'll see based on this fight. So like I said, I knew he was going to be a leg locker, so I thought he's potentially going to pull guard. So we both ended up pulling guard, which is a bit irritating because that gives him my leg straight away. He was trying to pass my right leg across the body. He ended up getting my left leg because I stood up to like a sumo position. I tried to do like where you push the knees between your legs and get to mount. He just did a very good kipping escape and managed to get one of his knees in, got his other leg onto my hip. And at this point I was really just trying to stack him, like keep my weight over the top of him. Like you can see here, I managed to get his knee bent, but I was really stupid and turned away from him, gave him a very easy toe hold. Didn't tap to that, but then he put his hips into my knee and got a knee bar, so that was a loss for me on that one. This is the fight I imagine all of you have come to watch the video to actually see. So this was me against James Wheeler. I wasn't too sure what he played, to be honest, but I knew I wanted to be aggressive, get a committed guard pull and work my guard game on him. I was a bit too aggressive and pushed us out the boundaries, but like I said, I got a really aggressive guard pull, managed to lock my legs well, and from this point on I was just trying to kind of work his arms, to be honest. My aims were to A, not let him pass, obviously, and B, to bring one of his arms across my body and his body so I could either go for an armbar or a back take. So as the fight went on, he was kind of just trying to standing guard past me, which if you've ever sparred with me before, you just know that doesn't really work unless you're annoying and you put your knees in the middle and then create a little gap. But every time he tried to do a standing guard pass, I would just bring him back down again, whether that was by bringing my knees to my face or by underhooking a leg. I believe I do the underhook of the leg in a couple more seconds. And you can't see at the moment, but I'm just trying to get his arm across my body and just get a solid grip because I don't want to risk going for a submission that leaves me vulnerable. So if I went for an armbar, but didn't have a decent grip, it wouldn't have been worth my time going for it. I would have been better off going for a sweep or a back take instead of the armbar. This is the annoying knee in the middle pass I was talking about. And let's just pause it right there quickly. Let's just cover some things. So he put his knee through the middle, passed, opened my legs, and immediately got a toe hold grip. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I'll just roll, pull my leg out. But this is where we can now play it. He basically just snapped the toe hold on, didn't give me a second to tap. He actually snapped my ankle before I could tap. And obviously, as you can tell, I was in a lot of pain. So I don't want to make too much of a long story out of it, but basically, at the time, I thought I had broken my ankle because it felt like it, obviously hurt like mad, and I didn't want to look at my leg or my ankle, but I could feel that something definitely wasn't right. So basically, this was me out of the section completely, as well as my no-gi section. I couldn't fight in that, and if I had won this fight, I would have gone straight to the final, which is gutting. But even if I lost this fight, but hadn't hurt my ankle, I would have gone into the bronze medal match, which I would have liked to think I would have won. So I could have taken home a medal if this didn't happen, regardless of whether I lost or not. So we ended up going to the paramedics at the site, and they basically said it looks dislocated, but they can't guarantee anything. So we ended up going to the hospital. And after about 5 hours of waiting and an x-ray and all that good stuff, they basically said it would have dislocated, put itself back, but then consequently given yourself some tendon damage, and quite a bit of it, because obviously it was a big, big swelling. I'll try and find the photo to put it up here now, but certainly wasn't great regardless of what happened. So as of filming this video, I am on crutches and will be on them for another week or so, and will hopefully be walking by that point. And fingers crossed, I will be training within the next 4 weeks again. But it's just really gutting. Something like that has to happen at my first purple belt competition that I was doing so well at. I just think it's a bit of a life lesson for that guy not to... I know it's a competition and I understand that, but there's an element of control you should have with your submissions, and he did not have that. To cause an injury to someone like that, it's not right. You don't go into a competition hoping to hurt someone, you just want to win. And if you can't win without hurting someone, you shouldn't be competing. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching the breakdown of my videos. I would have liked it to be longer because I could have had up to sort of 10 or so fights, and it would have been great to break each one of them down, but it just was unfortunate for it to happen this time. But I will be entering the next Grappling Industries competition in April, in which hopefully I get a similar size section, and hopefully I do just as well minus the injury this time. So thanks all for watching. If you're new, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you lot in a bit. Peace.